Hello, and a warm global welcome to our customers, partners, and team members joining us today for our next Partner Spotlight call on our new broadcast channel, jobscience.com/amplify. The Amplify Job Science program is a chance for everyone to get even more from job science through knowledge share. Today's session is centered around empowering the recruiter to change the conversation. I'm Robbie Hurd, Partners and Programs Manager here at Jobscience. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Steve Barnhurst. Steve is the Sales Director for Agency for Broadbean Technology in EMEA and is based in London. Steve, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, Robbie, and thank you very much for the introduction there. My name is Steve Barnhurst. As you said, I am the Sales Director for Broadbean Technology for our agency clients across EMEA. I've been with Broadbean for 3 years now, but prior to Broadbean, I've spent all my working life in the recruitment industry. I spent around 10 to 12 years as a frontline recruiter, as a billing consultant. I spent a couple of years in a sort of training and development capacity, and for 4 years prior to Broadbean, I was actually COO for a relatively large organisation in London. So I feel I have a real empathy for what recruiters have to contend with on a day-to-day basis at desk level in terms of working with existing systems to source candidates and manage their day, but also for owners and MDs of businesses out there who are looking at new systems and trying to get the absolute best from them. So I would be unfair to say that I'm an expert, but I like to feel I have a relatively solid understanding of the UK recruitment marketplace.
That's awesome. And it's almost like you're an extension of our own job science family. We pride ourselves in having a high concentration of employees like you that have that in the trenches background. I myself have approaching 16 years experience of having run a desk, corporate recruited for SAP and with Salesforce.com. And in fact, it was at Salesforce when I was running a recruiting team out of the Toronto office for Salesforce that I came across Job Science in the first instance. So I've also got the added advantage of having been a customer in the past. So it's great to have you, Steve.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And just to carry that on a bit further, I have a very, very strong team here in the London office, and every single member of my sales function is an ex-recruiter. It's absolutely paramount for me that they have that background. I think that without it, it's very, very difficult to understand exactly what recruiters have to contend with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a really, really key part of the hiring process for me as well.
That's great. That's great. And you're right. You just mentioned it, I think, rather nicely. It is unique. Steve, why don't we start by you telling us a bit about the origination of Broadbean?
Okay, so Broadbean goes back quite some time. It was actually established back in September of 2001 by our founder, Kelly Robinson. Many people will know of Kelly Robinson. He's a relatively well-known individual in the recruitment industry. Prior to Broadbean, he actually ran his own recruitment company called MEX, very successful. And it was there that he basically had the idea that there had to be an easier and more efficient way to get all of the jobs that he was working on out onto the various job boards that he was utilizing at that time. And he was, and still to this very day, is very much an entrepreneur, and he came up with that idea. And ultimately went off to have it built, which he did. Kelly is very much still with the company after 15 years. We've gone through 2 acquisitions, but Kelly is still with the business. He's out in America running our American operation, and to this very day he's still actively going out to see clients and works on opportunities with our partners such as yourself. So the business has been around for 15 years. We are, without question, the global leader in job advert distribution and candidate sourcing technology. To put that into context, we post every single month 3 million adverts. We source track 10 million responses. We power or facilitate, if you prefer, 2.7 million candidate searches. Um, we have 110,000 plus people who log into the system on a regular basis, if not daily basis. And we integrate with all of the leading partners out there in the industry. To And I would suggest in terms of job board coverage, we probably have circa 7,000 job boards globally now. So I think we have the largest network of job boards available of anybody else out there in the marketplace. I think the beauty about Broadbean is that, even though we have grown significantly from those very early days back in 2001. We still very much internally have a sort of startup feel about us, very, very flat management structure. And we're still absolutely committed to ensuring that we work with our clients in the best possible way, and we understand their businesses. We have people in the business here that, as I said, come from a recruitment background, who get what they do, and we're exceptionally well placed to add value along the way.
That's great, Steve. Thanks. There's a couple of areas I was hoping that you'd be able to walk us through today. As you know, yourself and your team there, time is perhaps one of the most precious commodities that a recruiter can have. So it'd be wonderful if you could give us a sense of how Broadbean, with the job science integration, helps save recruiters time. And then with the evolution that Broadbean is undergoing, you've realized that you've become a custodian of very valuable data. It would be super to gain a sense on today's Amplify session of how recruiters can change their story and elevate the conversation to be one that's underpinned with facts and data that Broadbean and Job Science can serve up.
Absolutely. So, I think, as I said, we are global leaders in job advert distribution and candidate sourcing technology. And whilst that is absolutely what we sell, I genuinely don't believe that's what we do. I think what we actually do is we save recruiters time. We absolutely make them more efficient, and we allow them to make business decisions based on fact as opposed to gut feel. So, if there are companies out there who want their consultants to be able to meet and interview more candidates, if they want them to go and attend more client meetings, if the marketing department wants to get their hands on information very quickly with regards to the effectiveness of various job board channels, and not just where the volume of candidates are coming from, but where the quality of candidates that the business subsequently places comes from. Or even going beyond that for the owners of the business to be able to make more of the money they've already spent, then I think Broadbean has some very, very powerful tools across its relatively small product portfolio to be able to do that. I really, really do. So sometimes people say, oh, you're only selling job advert distribution, or it's only multi-posting, however you want to phrase it. But I think if you can sort of get beyond just the sort of the features of the actual products themselves, even if you were to take it down to its absolute base levels, you still have people out there, even in this day and age, who think that they can do all of their sourcing on social media, which to a certain extent people obviously moving towards. They may still be posting adverts onto 3 or 4 job boards. They're almost certainly, or hopefully, putting it onto their own company website. Hopefully they're then still putting it onto the social media channels. So collectively they could be putting a unique advert out onto maybe 6, 10 different environments. Now, even if we're gracious enough to say that once you've cut it and pasted and logged in and tweaked it a few times, it takes 5 minutes to do that per channel. You multiply that up by 6, 10 times. That is a huge amount of time. You have people who are not ideally suited to admin tasks dedicated and focused in that area. So by utilizing Broadbean to be able to do it in one environment, to do it once, they can instantly save themselves a huge amount of time. Indirectly, what happens as a result of it is that they can do it once and they can do it properly. because each time they do it individually, they do it a little bit quicker, a little bit shorter, and therefore the actual quality of the work that they're doing tends to slip. It's not intentional, that's just human nature. So I think what we allow them to do is to do a very, very core and fundamental part of their role significantly better. And it just allows them to get back to what they ultimately want to be doing, which is recruiting, and hopefully being more productive for their employers. So the core underlying tools give significant benefits to recruiters. And I often hear from recruiters who are genuinely thankful that they say they couldn't do their job without it, or they've left an organization that have had Broadbean and gone to a new startup company that doesn't, and the amount of time that they spend being bogged down in admin or sourcing and looking for candidates in their Outlook inbox is just huge. And we're very, very fortunate to actually get a lot of our business coming that way from people who've experienced the benefits of Broadbean in previous companies, and almost the sort of experiencing the pain now of not necessarily having those tools at their disposal.
That's super. That's super. As soon as you show a recruiter a more efficient way of doing an aspect of
Mhm.
their lives, it's pretty hard to take it away from them for sure.
Yeah, I think, I'm fortunate enough to work with the largest clients that Broadbean has, but I go out with my sales guys to any company that's keen to have a meeting. I love going out to see clients and just talking to them about their businesses. And, it's interesting how so many clients out there have tried to force their consultants to work a certain way, or, they may have imposed a certain system on them to use. The reality is that recruiters are very, very clever people, and they will find a workaround. If the system is time poor, they will live their lives in Outlook, they'll live it in Excel. However, if you can give them a system that actually enhances their working day, makes them more successful, and makes their life easier, then they will absolutely grab it with both hands. And I think that's one of the beauties of Broadbean as a standalone system, is that it's incredibly intuitive, it's very, very easy to use, and it will absolutely drive efficiency at desk level for recruiters. What we've been fortunate enough to do now, Robbie, with yourselves, is to bring those two environments together. Um, as a business, we are constantly evangelizing to our clients the theory of a sort of single point of entry, if you like. So even though we obviously love our system and we're very, very passionate about Broadbean, we actually try and encourage people to log in directly to your CRM environment, but to drive all of the activity from there. And because the two systems are so seamlessly integrated, what it means is that they can come into work in the morning, they can fire open Jobscience, and they can basically spend the rest of the day in there. There's no actual need to log out of that and go into Broadbean, because everything can be run from one place. So to have that sort of seamless integration there only goes to further enhance the efficiency of the recruiter. And again, whilst it's a mildly cliche term, the sort of user experience they get. These guys have a tough job to do. The marketplace right now, we see this probably more so than anybody out there. There are a huge amount of jobs being advertised in the marketplace. When we look at the data that goes through our system, which is around 70% of all of the online advertising in the UK goes through Broadbean. When we look at the volume of volume of adverts, we are seeing almost unprecedented levels of growth right now. However, what we have seen, probably going back over the last 4-6 months, is actually a very, very significant and sort of frightening drop off in what we call the APV, the applications per vacancy rate. So, whilst the growth in vacancies is going up, the number of people applying for those jobs just simply can't cope with it. So there's just less and less people coming through for each of those opportunities. So these guys and girls out there having to work really, really hard to source candidates and to find candidates. So they need to be spending as much time as possible doing that. So if they can get their adverts out onto all of the various channels, the traditional ones, the paid for ones, the free ones, and the social ones, and invest their time in other areas, then that can absolutely only be a good thing for them.
Great, great. We could devote a whole other Amplify session on the reason why those APVs are dropping off, and actually that might be something that we should consider. But in the meantime, I've got a job science rec on display on the screen here. And if we simply scroll down for the benefit of those that haven't seen the job science system, I'm sure they'll see fields here that are pretty familiar to them, such as the title of the role, who the hiring manager is, the salary, the fee percentage, the estimated fee based on the stage of the rec. And if we
Mhm.
scroll down, we can see some milestone schedules, the status, the job description, and indeed anybody that has applied onto
Yes.
the position or been associated with the position, whether they're active or passive candidates, are all listed in the applications module here. Any presentations that have been made. And then, of course, for those that are familiar with Salesforce, they'll notice that any open activities for this requisition and activity history is automatically logged onto the requisition itself, because Job Science is as most people know, natively built on Salesforce. But when I click on this little intriguing button here called Post to Broadbean, can you give me a sense of what happens?
Yeah, I think what you've got there, if you look at it, is you've just very kindly taken everybody through almost how to create a vacancy or a job requisition within your environment. So if you imagine one of the consultants, they've come into work, they've picked up a new opportunity, which is great. They enter it into the system as they should do. And then how are they actually going to go and actually publish that job? How are they going to get that onto all of the various channels that they actually have access to? As you've seen in there, very, very easy. They don't have to leave your environment to go to another one or go to the boards directly. They simply have to click that button, post to Broadbean. And this launches the Broadbean environment that a lot of people are going to be very familiar with. So this is actually Broadbean's posting form. The beauty of it, as you can see there in the green bar at the top of the screen, is there are 3 steps. You simply need to choose the job boards that you wish to post that job out to. You will then basically go on to complete the advert details, and then you will simply preview it and just send it out. Obviously, this screen here is entirely customizable. You will only ever see the job boards that you have a commercial agreement with. But in the very same way that job science can be customized at a very, very granular level, so can Broadbean. So Robbie, if you did IT recruitment and I did accountancy recruitment, for example, we could set up this screen so that you only saw the IT job boards that were relevant to you, and I would only see the accountancy finance job boards that were relevant to me. You'll also notice down here that we have Twitter, so we can actually post out to the social channels such as Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, social status. And as I said, depends which job boards a client has at their disposal as to what will ultimately show up here. So simply from your environment of writing the job requisition, all they've got to do is hit the Broadbean button and select the boards. The absolute beauty of the integration comes on the next stage at step 2. If we were to click on to step 2, what would happen is all of the data that you had input in the job requisition initially will actually, through the integration, appear in the Broadbean posting form. So there's absolutely no requirement for the consultants to have to re-enter that work, again saving them a huge amount of time. All they will want to do is to basically go through and just fill in any additional fields or subcategories that are now available, and then check it and send it. So they're driving that behavior from job science, and then they're going to push it through Broadbean to distribute it out onto those channels for them.
Right, right. One of the reasons why we've enjoyed this partnership, Steve, is the seamlessness
Mm-hmm.
of the integration, and it seems pretty evident as a non-technical person that this is a very elegantly put together integration of the two systems.
Mm-hmm.
You did touch on posting on social channels, which I guess in some cases would be an example of posting it to some, in some cases, free sites. So would it be possible to customize this environment to also include job boards with whom I don't have a commercial relationship, but in fact they allow free posting?
So I think there's three categories here, and certainly in our world we would define them as three categories. So you will have your traditional paid for job boards, the usual suspects, the monsters, the job sites, the total jobs of this world, that most people would be familiar with. You will then have your social channels, again, all the usual suspects, your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they would be your core channels for that environment. And then you have your free job boards. Now, typically what we find is you will still need to contact those free job boards to create an account. But we can absolutely activate those in your Broadbean environment for you. So something like, Adzuna, for example, one of the aggregators, you could absolutely include that in your Broadbean environment. There's no charge for posting onto that site, but I believe you would need to, email them, contact them to set up give them your contact details, etc., etc. But absolutely, it can be customized to have that.
That's great. Thanks for that. And of course, once that posting, that third step has been complete,
Mm-hmm.
the recruiter is then free to search their own internal database, go to their shortlists, start networking for the role, and just wait for the applicants to flow in from all of those channels that they've selected, and then take action from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I guess, brings it more back into your world, but allows the recruiter to sort of define their own journey at this point. As you said earlier, Robbie, that your system is highly configurable. Recruiters are very unique in the way in which they work, so it's great that they can customize the sort of the feel and look up and set up and feels that they see to benefit the way in which they choose to work. So all of the responses will come back in. I think the beauty is that they will all be assigned against the job requisition that was originally created. And again, what you then have is an immediate benefit over what they're probably doing right here, right now. I go back to my recruiting days, and if you cast your memory back to it as well, you were posting jobs then, you were having responses for all of your jobs coming back into Outlook, I would imagine, as was I. So, you have lots of different responses for lots of different adverts all coming back into one inbox. You have client emails, you have candidate emails, you have internal emails, and almost certainly you've got personal emails. What happens as a direct result of that is that you lose quality and you waste time. There is almost no possible way for you to ensure that you have looked at every candidate. Obviously, there'll be the odd recruiter out there who is diligent enough to be able to do that, but just due to the sheer volume of responses that you're likely to get, it becomes very, very difficult to ensure you are looking at everybody for the role in which they've applied for. The beauty of the integration with them all being shortlisted against the relevant job requisition is you can literally work top down, bottom up, and ensure that you look at every single application that has come back in for that role, make sure not one person has been missed, which is an absolute benefit to you as a recruiter, but also to the boss of the company who's actually paid a relatively large amount of money to source those candidates for you. But also, if you then start to look at the two systems collectively, the next time you have a similar role, you almost have like a ready-made shortlist of people who didn't necessarily make the cut this time, but could be very suitable for a similar role. I think when we look at it and when we speak to our clients, I don't think it would be unreasonable to say that probably, I don't know what you think, Robbie, but maybe 98% of the people who respond to an advert are probably not right for it. I.e., you get 20, 30 responses, there's only going to be 2 or 3 people who are absolutely spot on for it. Doesn't mean that there's not other people that have responded who wouldn't be right for a very similar role this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, next month. But in that old inbox environment, going back to find them becomes increasingly difficult. Whereas looking at your screen here, hopefully we fill this sales director's role this afternoon, and if we pick up a similar one next week, we instantly have a very, very good starting point of people that we can go and look at. Yes, we're going to post it because we want fresh people coming through and we want to push the brand of the recruitment business out there, but with a very clean and efficient way to go back to look at past candidates.
That's great. And I learned something a short while ago. It was a lovely term that I think sums it up quite nicely, and it is uh, gaining access to your silver medalists.
Mm-hmm.
Because In some particularly senior or strategic roles, there's a fairly exacting process of due diligence to select that final candidate. And you often uncover um, pretty solid talent that doesn't quite fit culturally, but would be a perfect fit for a different environment. And as you say, accessing those, and to use my term, silver medalists in the future is key. And so what we've done is we've spent a lot of time developing our shortlists capability so that I can tuck those silver medalists away, keep them uppermost with communication, keep them warm as strong talent, so that when an opening comes up in the future, I'm able to tap into them very quickly and efficiently. And in fact, um, we're finding even our corporate customers are
Mm.
moving to a stage where they're starting to do pipeline hiring in advance of requisitions being open from a headcount perspective. So, in other words, um, please start building a bench of this type of talent ahead of the business approving headcount, so that when in August we know we're going to have headcount approved, we've got a ready-made list of strong talent that's ready to be interviewed and brought through our process. So that's another reason I love this
Mm.
partnership, because you get it and you understand that the posting process is critical, but you also understand its role within the overall success structure of a recruiter that's either generating revenue from the placement or that's being measured on their success on corporate in-house hiring. Um,
Absolutely. I think the talent pooling is key. It's a phrase that's been around for a long time, but I think it's hugely important in a very, very candidate short market, which we're in right now. I think to go in conjunction with your silver medalists, as you put it, I think there's almost another category. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a term for it, but um, as a recruiter, you may have somebody out to final interview tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and a wonderful candidate, submits their details today. Based on past experiences, personally, I would imagine it's very unlikely that the person who applied today is going to get put forward. I.e., the recruiter in question doesn't want to rock the boat. They've got somebody at final tomorrow. They don't want to introduce somebody at this late stage that might, elongate the process or spoil their chances. So they don't necessarily get put forward when they should do, or certainly could do. And it's those types of candidates that I think potentially in the Outlook world get overlooked and don't necessarily get tracked as well as they could do when you have a very well integrated environment such as this.
Great, great. Um, before we start to conclude today's Amplify session, Steve, can you give the viewers a sense of pricing for the solution and how they can find out additional information such as that?
Yeah, I mean, we probably charge in a very, very similar way to yourselves. We charge on a per user basis. We constitute a user as anybody who posts a vacancy or who has a vacancy posted on their behalf. So we can absolutely cater for those organizations where consultants run their own desks and post their own adverts, but also those organizations that are structured differently and maybe have a resourcing team that actually does the posting on behalf of a number of consultants. But prices, obviously I'm incredibly biased, but I think in terms of the value and efficiency and return it gives you, I think are incredibly competitive and certainly not prohibitive whatsoever. Price for a single user for a 12-month period starts from £675 for the year, and we obviously volunteer an economy of scale as it goes up. So it's not simply 675 times however many consultants you've got. The per user rate will come down significantly, but prices for one user start from 675. Prices for 5 users, to put it into context, are 1585 for a 12-month term. But anybody who's interested in either looking at the solution in a little bit more detail or any of the other products that we have, the 2 search offerings we have, only too happy to to speak to anybody and take them through that and show them the prices.
Steve, what would be useful, I feel, for the Amplify viewers today is to gain a sense of not only what the future holds for broadband technology, but to also gain some insight into your philosophy, the philosophy of Broadbean, how you see today's structure of the market, how you see the pressures affecting recruiters, and how ultimately Broadbean is going to move in the future to help recruiters be even more efficient in the future. Can you share that with the viewers today?
Yeah, I'll certainly try to. I think we're absolutely going to focus on what our core offerings are, which is the the job advert distribution and the candidate sourcing technology. We're not really looking to do anything over and above that. We just want to do what we do now, but try and do it, as well as we possibly can do, and bring some innovation to that process. So, the product itself, certainly within the next 3-4 months, is going to be completely reskinned. It's one of those interesting things where it does what it says on the tin, but hasn't really changed probably for most of those 15 years. But this year it will start to look very, very different. We're going to bring a new look and feel to that. So any clients should get ready for that as that comes through. But that will be a welcome change just to sort of freshen up the offering in that sense. I think what I could speak to you about data. Trends, the market all day long, Robbie. I'm a bit of a geek for that. I love what's happening in the recruitment industry. I think what's also interesting to me is more of the anecdotal trends that I see personally when I go out and see my clients and speak to my clients. And there's a couple of things that I think are quite interesting that are happening out there. People will always advertise jobs. That is a fact. People will always want to get their brand out there. The job boards will absolutely outperform the social media channels in terms of the volumes of responses that they push through. We see that even now. I'm not to say that there's not a place for social, there absolutely is, but I think what we started to see is that people are seeing social as a great place to distribute content, but job boards absolutely play a core role in actually sourcing candidates that people go on to place. And whereas they possibly did to begin with, I don't think social recruitment is free. It probably never was, but it certainly isn't now. I think you need a very different type of recruiter to be able to source people on social channels. It takes a much longer approach and a very different type of recruiter to be successful in that world. I look back to when I was running a recruitment company, and I think if I actually had then a good CRM system, if I had used it wisely, if I'd kept it clean, if I'd kept it up to date, and if I'd actually engaged with it on a very, very regular basis, I think now, maybe whatever that is, 5-6 years down the line, I would potentially, if not almost certainly, have a better database of candidates than any social media channel or job board out there. And I think what I am really seeing is some of my clients looking at their internal database systems and thinking, we actually have a wealth of data on here, and we need to actually use this data more intelligently, because if you work in the medical world, there are only so many medical candidates to go around in the UK. So companies appreciate that, yes, they're still advertising, and that's great from a content perspective, great from a branding perspective, but ultimately they are paying 2, 3, 4, 5 times over to get people that are currently sitting in somebody's Outlook, heaven forbid, or on their existing CRM system. So one of the things that Broadbean is going to look to do is to take that additional step away from the recruiter. So as you kind of took us through the ability to post, you would write the advert in Jobscience, you would then hit the Broadbean button, you would basically post it out to your channels. The new final phase of Broadbean, which currently says, confirmation, i.e. your adverts have successfully posted, will actually now say confirmation, and you have X number of results that meet that requirement. So what we're going to look to do is to run the search across the internal data to actually immediately present you with results that would be a suitable match for the job that you've just posted. So I think that by combining the posting and the searching, hopefully we're actually going to be able to take a lot of that effort away, but also drive the behavior that consultants should absolutely be looking at the valuable data that's currently sitting in their CRM to see how they could reuse, recycle that on future opportunities.
Thank you, Steve. We've thoroughly enjoyed a long-standing partnership with Broadbean. not least with Kelly. Time and time again, he's proven that he's an innovator in the industry, and I think everybody will concur that your input today has really opened everyone's eyes up to the the potential that lies ahead for recruiters to continue to be even more efficient with Broadbean's stance in the future, because it sounds to me like you're continually striving to enrich my data, enrich my reports, and enrich the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis, which I think is gonna stand Broadbean in fantastic stead for the future. That's super. Steve, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a distinct privilege to share with everybody some of the insights that you and Broadbean have. Um, for the benefit of the Amplify viewers, there is a number of ways that they can continue to find out more information. For everybody, they can access this and other Amplify sessions at the jobscience.com/amplify website. For our own customers, they can click on their ideas tab and submit any ideas that they have. Our own dev team places a great deal of importance on the ratings that are associated with all of our customers' ideas that we receive. For Broadbean, please simply visit broadbean.com for more information. And if anybody has any questions specifically around anything that's been covered today, please feel free to reach out directly to Steve at stephenb@broadbean.com. And then if there are any prospects considering an applicant tracking system that has the right sort of integrations, please reach out to sales@jobscience.com. Before we wrap up, what I thought I'd do is I'd mention that for those individuals heading on to Dreamforce this year, we are going to have a significant presence, and I just wanted to spend a minute or two talking about that presence here. In September, Jobscience will be forming an HR hub. We'll be at the Press Club, an award-winning wine bar and restaurant in the heart of San Francisco's downtown. And if you want to escape the madness that is Dreamforce, please feel free to pop down. It literally is a 4 or 5 minute walk from Moscone North, and we'd be delighted to see you there. For more information on that, simply visit the website that you see here, jobscience.com/Dreamforce-2015. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for your continued partnership, and we look forward to our next session next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robbie.
Bye-bye.